Bible boys, marriage FC. Listen, if you're an Arsenal fan like myself, those four words that I've just mustered up, you already may be familiar with them. On the other hand, you could be an Arsenal fan and you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. You're thinking to yourself, you've clicked onto the wrong video. I may be talking a foreign language for all you're concerned. But if you haven't been paying attention, right, there's a large contingent of Arsenal first team players that are either partnered off, engaged, or married. Hence the term marriage FC. There's also a large contingent of the Arsenal first team players that practice a religion, namely Christianity. Hence the term Bible boys. Now I've been thinking to myself lately, is this all by coincidence? Right place, right time sort of thing? Or the bigger question that I have here is this all intentional? Is this all by design? We all know how meticulous the manager is. We all know how he talks about the finer details. In this video, my intention is to find out whether the strong family and religious dynamic at Arsenal is done intentionally and how I feel that is helping to fuel what is potentially leading to an unwavering amount of success at Arsenal Football Club. Let's talk. Yes, my lovely people, welcome to the Let's Talk H YouTube channel. My name is Henry. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into this video. Hope everyone's well, hope everyone's good. This is actually my first video on this brand new YouTube channel. So before we go anywhere, guys, I'm gonna need you to help me out, help your way out, and like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to build this YouTube channel brick by brick, and in order for me to do that, I'm gonna need you guys' help. The aim of this channel is for me to be covering and talking about topics that I'm insanely passionate about, topics that I'm actively involved in, topics that I hold close to my heart. And these topics can range from the likes of fatherhood, marriage, mentorship, societal issues, sports, you know, the entertainment business, etc, etc. And when I'm covering and talking about these topics, I'm going to try to cover them with as much depth, with as much substance, with as much critical thinking as I possibly can, you know, because I want to dive deeper below the surface. In this particular YouTube video, I'm going to be covering my beloved Arsenal. Just to give you guys some context, I've been an Arsenal fan for a really long time. Maybe the grey hairs on my beard kind of gives it away. I've been on this earth for 30 something years, that's all I will say. I think I became an Arsenal fan in the 98-99 season. I actually, you know, had my first experience of going to an Arsenal game at Highbury in 1999. I think at the time Arsenal were competing against Leicester and Dennis Bergkamp scored on that day. So that was my first taste of being an Arsenal fan. I've seen the highs and lows. I was actually at the parade the last time we won the Premier League back in 2004. I've been to so many Arsenal games. I'm actually going to watch Arsenal at the Emirates on Saturday. I don't know when this video will be out, but yeah, I'm going to the Arsenal Brighton game. So whether this video is going to be out before or after that game, hopefully we win. Now let's quickly address the man at the helm. The man that is currently leading Arsenal Football Club on the pitch. You can say off the pitch as well. I mean, some people like to call him Mikel, some people like to call him Arteta, some people like to call him the gaffer. I like to call him Mikel, so that's how I'm going to address him. There are large sections of the fan base that are split on their opinion on this manager. There's one section of the fan base that is completely for him. They'll run through brick walls for him. They'll even literally jump in front of a bullet on behalf of this man, like literally. There's another section of the fan base that totally dislike him. They don't think he's the man to get us over the line. They feel like he's reached his ceiling. And there's probably the last, you know, section of the fan base who are neither, you know, for him or against him. They're sort of in the middle. Listen, we're not here to have that conversation whether the manager should be in or out. You know, this is not the YouTube channel for that. You know, there's plenty of other YouTube channels that will talk about stuff like that, but this is not going to be one of them. Even if you're, you know, completely against this manager, you cannot argue that this manager has helped turn the club around. Now, you can argue that, you know, he's yet to do so with regards to trophies, but when it comes to performances, and especially when it comes to the culture that's at Arsenal right now, the environment, he has completely did a 360. I mean, before he came into the helm, Arsenal, to quite frankly put it, were a mess. They were an absolute mess. During the latter years of Arsene Wenger's reign, and then obviously Emery took over, and we all know how that went. One of the most impressive things that this manager has done, maybe it's arguably his most impressive feat at the club, he has helped turn Arsenal into a serious club again. And he's created an environment where not only do players thrive, but players also love to play for Arsenal. Players are proud. You can tell that players that we have now, they're proud to play for Arsenal. And for a long time, that wasn't really the case. Whether he's the man to take us over the line and win us the big trophies, that's yet to be seen. But even if he doesn't, and even if he ends up leaving Arsenal, you cannot argue that he would have left Arsenal in a much better place. He would have left Arsenal with such a strong foundation that whoever takes over from him really won't have much to do. Just literally win. That's all they would have to do. But the culture, the environment that he's built is there for the long term. This manager has been responsible for not only a culture shift at Arsenal, but he's also been, instrumental in building these core family values. I'm sure you guys have noticed it too, and this is what this video is all about, right? And I like to pay attention to the details, so I notice little things like this. At first, I thought it may have just been a coincidence, but over time, I realized that there was a pattern emerging, right? A lot of the Arsenal players, current Arsenal players, have either settled down, have got engaged, or have got married over the last couple of years of Mikel Arteta's reign. And not only that, but we have also a lot of players that follow a particular religion at Arsenal, namely Christianity. And for me, I kind of relate to stuff like this because not only am I married, I'm also a Christian as well. So I started, just peeping through the grapevine and just seeing these things happening at my football club. Here's a fun fact. So as I was thinking about launching this channel about a month and a half ago, I was thinking about what type of videos should I do to actually launch this channel. And one of the videos that I was thinking of doing is exactly this one that I'm doing right now. I was thinking about covering the culture shift at Arsenal and the fact that I started noticing a lot of our players had started settling down, having kids, getting married, and also the fact that we have a lot of Christians or a lot of believers of God in our sort of dressing room. I was deliberating with myself on how I was going to film it, and then 2.5 weeks ago, guys, can you imagine, 2.5 weeks ago, a news reporter for the Daily Mail called Issan Khan released an article on the Daily Mail. I think Issan covers a lot of Arsenal because I've seen some of his articles about in the past, so I think he does cover Arsenal as well as some other teams. He released a article titled Inside the Arsenal Bible Boys Group. This article basically did all the work for me. He literally did all the journalistic work for me. Guys, if you have not read the article, I recommend that you do. It's really insightful. I'm going to post a link to the article in the comment section below, so for anybody who wants to read it, just click on the link and yeah, you can definitely see what the article is about. It really did confirm what I was seeing with my eyes. So this article mainly spoke about the positive impact that religion and this close-knit family dynamic that is happening at Arsenal was having on the club as a whole, not only from a competitive standpoint but also from a relational standpoint as well. And it just talked about the culture shift essentially at Arsenal Football Club that has been spearheaded by this manager. First of all, I'm going to cover the Bible Boys section. So I'm going to cover it in two parts. I'm going to cover the Bible Boys section and I'm going to cover the marriage section. In regards to the Bible Boys section, so the article leads with the term the Premier League Bible Boys, which is led by Pastor Timber. Listen, we all know about Pastor Timber, man. The Bible quotes that he always posts before the games. Listen, I can't lie, it's become a ritual now, It's literally become a ritual. Some people literally wait until Timber posts a quote from the Bible or scripture from the Bible, you know what I'm saying, before they're able to get into game mode. That's how popular it's become. See, Timber is one of the many Christians at Arsenal, or one of the many players at Arsenal that believes in God. Of the current squad, so the squad is made up of 25 players, and out of those 25 players, 14 players have identified themselves as Christians or believers of God. So more than half of the squad has identified themselves as Christians. So we have Noni Madueke, Eberi Eze, Bakayo Saka, Hincapi, Christian Mosquera, Gabriel Megalez, Duran Timber, Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Ethan Ranieri. Saliba is also religious, but I think he's Muslim. So you can maybe say 15 out of the 25 squad players. So guys, that is literally more than half of the squad. That's a pretty significant number, guys. That is a pretty significant number. Guys, this is a pretty big deal because I'm gonna get into a second, but the article goes on and says that sheer amount of Christians and players that practice religion at Arsenal, the sheer amount of players that do so is helping to fuel and inspire what we currently see now in the Arsenal squad. I mean, as I currently film, we are top of the Champions League, we are top of the Premier League. We've just literally gone through to the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. Things are really going well for Arsenal. Listen, we haven't won anything yet, and that's the caveat, right? At the end of the day, it's all about trophies. It's all about the accolades, and we haven't won anything yet. But we cannot ignore the feeling around Arsenal right now, the performances that we're seeing on the pitch. It basically goes on to say, at Arsenal, religion isn't hidden away. It's quiet, but rather visible, and seen as key to their form. And it also says in the article, for the sheer number of players openly voicing their faith as they ride divine inspiration to the top of the Premier League and Champions League. Pastor Timber, as we like to call him, he was actually asked about the Bible verses that he posts on Twitter, I think in an interview that he did recently. And I actually have the quotes from that interview that are within this article. Those quotes say as follows: "They fans do wait for them," he joked. The other day I almost forgot and I got a lot of messages like, where's the Bible verse? So it's quite fun. See, Pastor Timber's taking it all in his stride. It's become that important that, listen, when he doesn't post, Bible scriptures or Bible verses before a game, people go into a panic, literally. And the reason why I think Timber's scriptures or verses are so popular amongst the Arsenal fan base is because a large contingent of the Arsenal fan base are Christians or are believers of God or do practice some form of religion. Arsenal have one of the largest fan bases in the world. Arsenal fans, we are everywhere. Like, we are everywhere. Literally, you can be at any corner of this earth and you will find an Arsenal fan. The fact that, we have somebody that, represents us as Christians. I'm talking about us because I'm a Christian myself. So the fact that we have players playing for our football club that are Christian or do practice a religion or do believe in God, we resonate to those players. It's just like anything in life. If you have something in common with somebody and you're going to gravitate towards them a little bit more. A lot of Arsenal fans share common ground with a lot of these players because of their faith, feel connected to a lot of the Christian Arsenal players that are in this current squad. And so you can tell now that's become an important part, especially amongst, the social media fan base. It's become an important part of the match day schedule. Listen, as soon as Pastor Timber posts his Bible verses, you already know it's time to lock in. I also found this quote very interesting, and it was from Noni Madueke, who's also identified as a Christian. He said, "Before every game we pray together for a few minutes, and then also at hotel studying the Bible and praying. There's like 10 of us. So a few of us contribute for a scripture. We talk about it, read about it, see what everyone is going through." There was a section of the article that sort of followed on from that. Also gave like a more detailed, description of what this players' Christian meet is all about. It says here, it's understood that a group of their Christian players meet to pray either in an on-site dedicated prayer room opened last December by Arsenal's former midfielder Mohamed El Neni, a devout Muslim, or in a quiet room near the changing room. Obviously, the fact that they get together to pray, before every match day or even after every match day, man, like that is powerful. And being a Christian myself, like, and taking my faith in God seriously, it's just great to hear that this group of professionals that are, thrust into the limelight, their every touch is scrutinized. Sometimes we forget that footballers are human beings too. So it's hard sometimes to stay grounded, to stay humble. This shows the togetherness and the spirit that they have amongst each other. It's really important in football to have a group of players that you're close with, because if you've had a bad game or if you're going through stuff in your personal life, man, you have a group of brothers, or you've created this brotherhood where if you're going through something, you can pray for that person. It can be that shoulder that they can lean on, man. This next part definitely sort of gives a bit of validation for me, because I kind of had a feeling that this was the case. But remember how I said before that all of this, all of the culture shift, the culture change at Arsenal has been spearheaded by the coaching staff and the manager. You know, I think this article goes on to confirm this. Sources say that it's been embraced by Mikel Arteta and his staff, who have seen the impact he has had on togetherness among a team that looks to be the strongest Arsenal side in decades. Not only is this having an impact off the pitch, like I said, it's having an impact on the pitch, and it's clear, and it's been embraced by, you know, Mikel. Like, I would need to confirm this, but I think Mikel is also like a Christian, or I think he does believe in God. If you want to change any organization, it has to come from the top, and this Arsenal team that we have right now is a stark image of the manager. He has been given the reins to create this team, to create the environment, to do whatever he pleases. A year or two into his, you know, coaching career at Arsenal, I think there was a change in his job title. I think he became manager. When you're a coach, you're just in control of the footballing side. But when you become a manager, now you have the power. Mikel's a very smart man. He's very meticulous. He has seen the togetherness that, you know, this brings. He understands that religion and faith helps bring unity, and it helps bring togetherness to a side. You know, every game I see, man, I see the togetherness within the team, man. And Timber goes on to echo this togetherness and this unity that, you know, being a Christian or having Christian players at Arsenal brings. It brings unity and understanding, because you can live the same life and it's not always easy. So even just going into the reason why Arteta places such importance in this, it says in the article, it also ties into Arteta's emphasis on family values. It is noticeable how many of his players have got married in recent years. We're going to touch on that in a second. Religious players are less prone to off-pitch distractions such as partying, and inclined to be family-orientated, and he values this. Now, this is so important, man, because I can only talk for myself. Being a Christian, man, or being a believer in God, this is so true. If you practice a certain religion, right, like, if you know, it doesn't even have to be Christianity. It can be Islam, it can be whatever. You are generally a lot more strict in the way you live your life. You know, operate on a certain set of values. Listen, not everybody does, you know, I can only speak for myself, but in a general sense, like, if you practice your religion, if you're serious about it, guys, the key word is serious, right? You're a lot more disciplined in the way you live your life, in the way you operate, in the type of people that you hang around, in the type of, you know, environments that you put yourself in. Obviously, being a footballer is hard. Like I said, every move that you make is scrutinized. If you make mistakes, which human beings are prone to do, like, we're all human, we make mistakes, that mistake is probably going to end up on the front page of a newspaper. You understand? Every move you make has a microscope to it. You know, there's a lot of footballers that have gotten themselves into trouble lately. We had a former player that got himself into a bit of trouble, you know. And Mikel sees this. That's why he places emphasis on it. You know, as a team, when you're, you know, when you've got this goal, and that goal is to win as many trophies as you can, you need everybody singing from the same hymn sheet. You don't want somebody within that group getting in trouble. This is why, you know, he values this and he sees this, man, and he places a lot of emphasis on this. When you're a family orientated person, you know, you've got a lot to lose. You don't want to put yourselves in any danger that can not only harm you but harm your family. Mikel then goes on to say, I love it because I think it connects them more. Some of them share the same beliefs or strong beliefs, and that helps their well-being, the mental side, and what it brings to them as human beings. Again, really, really important here. Again, mental health, that's something that I'm really passionate about. So mental health is something that I'm going to be covering on this channel at some point. Mental well-being of a footballer, you know, it needs to be strong. They need to be mentally strong, you know, above anything else. They need to be physically strong, but more importantly, and just as important, they need to be mentally strong. What footballers have to face is, it's on a different level, man. It's on a different level because there's so much pressure on these, you know, modern day footballers. You know, there's a lot of pressure coming from family, a lot of pressure coming from, you know, football, a lot of pressure coming from, you know, just life in general, man. And it's a lot to take mentally. So just having people there that can pray with you, that can hold you up, so people that you can vent to, that is just so important. It helps take the load off you. What I've noticed as well is a lot of the players, man, they don't shy away from their faith. You know, they're very open about it. Cool. Anytime they come out, you know, I see them pointing to the sky or see them doing the cross. Man, it's good to have players that around you that share the same beliefs, share the same faith, because it can just help, like I said, the connection grow. I've also noticed that there's a strong contingent of Christian players that are from South America. South America is widely known to be a religious continent. They are centered in religion, especially Christianity, and we have a lot of South American players at Arsenal. Guys, let's talk on marriage C for 1 second. Let's kind of stay on that topic for just one hot second. So going back to the article where it says it also ties into Arteta's emphasis on family values, it is noticeable how many of his players have got married in recent years. A lot of our players, are settling down, either, getting engaged, getting married and having children. We've seen it all, right? And I just want to sort of give you a list of how many players have actually gotten engaged or married during, Arteta's reign. Arteta became manager of Arsenal in 2019. So obviously there's a lot of players that have come and gone. But of the current squad, right, we've got Mikel Saka, who has recently got engaged. Congratulations to him. Martin Odegaard got married, I think, a couple years ago. Ben Wright also recently got married. Kai Havertz, Gabriel Magalhaes, Kivio. I know Kivio is on loan at Porto, but he's still part of Arsenal as it currently stands. That's quite a lot of players, right? There are players in our squad that have already, gotten married, like Leandro Trossard. Trossard got married in 2019. Leandro Trossard joined Arsenal, I think, in 2022. Was it? I think it was, or 2023. I think it was January 2023. There's a large contingent of Arsenal players, a part of a family. They've got their own family. They are either engaged or married. Then, speaking from my experience as a married man, as somebody who also has a kid, this is really important, man. Because having a family and being married, it keeps you grounded. It really does. Just from personal experience, man, as a man, I feel like being engaged or being married can bring a certain level of clarity, focus, stability, and discipline into one's life. And this can definitely trickle down into your professional, what you do as a job. So the same can be said for the type of impact that a religion can have on a man's life. I think, the characteristics are very much the same. They're very much interchangeable. Listen, a relationship without marriage can keep you grounded. I feel like, marriage is just that step up in terms of commitment, like you're committing to somebody for the rest of your life. You've actually said those vows. You'll be together till death do you part. Marriage is a huge commitment. Marriage is a huge, responsibility. And I think, players that, give themselves to that responsibility, it sort of bodes well on the pitch. Being married and being with somebody and having a family with them, man, like it can just give you that extra, like I said, motivation to, to do well, not only for yourself, but to do well for them, because you don't want to let your family down. You want the best for your family. So it can make your performance uptick just that extra 5 or 10%. And I don't want this to go over a lot of people's heads, but relationship compared to a marriage is different in this one aspect. In a relationship, you can just up and leave somebody if you want. If you decide that things are not working out for you, you can just up and leave without no strings attached. Whereas with a marriage, it's a lot harder to do that because we have divorce, right? And divorce is not only a long and drawn out process from an emotional point of view, from a financial point of view as well. It can be very costly. And commitment is a very big part in this. There's an element of sacrifice and selflessness when it comes to being in a marriage. A marriage is not going to work without there being mutual sacrifice and mutual selflessness. Basically, you have to be a team player, essentially, when you're in a marriage. And I can translate this to, a football player. A football player has to show a level of selflessness and show a level of sacrifice for the team that they play in. We'll take, Gyökeres at Arsenal, right? His primary job is to score goals. And I'm pretty sure that if you was to ask him, right, what would he prefer to do? He'd prefer to stay up the pitch, right, and just let his teammates pass him the ball. But he knows within this current Arsenal setup, every man has to work hard for each other. He knows that he has to run back. He knows that he has to chase loose balls, just do the dirty work, for the team. You know that you have to do things that you may not want to do, but you have to do it for the good of the team. You have to sacrifice yourself, and that is exactly how marriage is. And the manager is married, himself. He's been married for a long time. He has kids. So again, remember I was saying that the team is the image of the manager. If you're a player, right, you don't want, to go back to your family empty-handed, right? At the end of the season, you want them to be celebrating with you. All the sacrifices that your wife makes, in order for, you to do what you do. And this is why Mikel places so much emphasis on it, because he sees the motivation that being engaged, being married, having a family can have on an athlete. This is sum up right, and I think this is the most appropriate line from this whole article that Issan wrote. I think this sums it up perfectly, right? For Arteta and his team, faith is part of the glue that holds them together. It's a reminder that togetherness forged between players can be just as influential as tactics or talent. That's a mic drop right there. Faith is the glue, right? Faith is glue. If it wasn't because of my faith, I don't know where I'd be. It's helped me persevere through so many challenges. Yeah, faith literally holds a person together, or it can hold a person together, and that's exactly what can be said for this Arsenal team. And I'm seeing it on the pitch, I'm seeing it even off the pitch as well, man. I'm actually seeing a team. I'm seeing a team that I can see want to fight together. They want to win together. So us fans, like, we're very, very simple people. We just want to see a team that fights for the badge. And these group of players, man, they're special. And what's going to make them extra special is them obviously lifting silverware. But simply put, this Arsenal team, and when I talk about team, I'm talking about not only the players, but also the coaching staff as well. This Arsenal team is on the verge of greatness. This Arsenal team, has all the ingredients, all the credentials to go on to win, trophy after trophy after trophy. The foundation is there. And whether or not they achieve what we want them as fans to achieve, and what they as a collective have set out to achieve, whether they actually do it, we're going to find out, in due course. And I pray to God that we are, celebrating next year in May, June. It's not only going to come down to the in-game management. It's not only going to come down to tactics. It's not only going to come down to talent. It's also going to come down to the togetherness and the unity and the harmony that's within the current setup. As I'm seeing and as I'm witnessing, the current group of players are together like no other time that I can ever think of. I mean, the last time I can remember a squad of players that we have at Arsenal being so unified, but we have to go back to the Invincible days. And that is fueled by the family and religious dynamic that has been instilled and encouraged by this current manager. Bible boys, Marriage FC are two of the things that are holding this current group of players together, that are keeping this squad of players unified. It's what is keeping these players, motivated to achieve great things for Arsenal. And long may it continue. It's not just about talent. It's not just about the tactics. It's about unity. And this Arsenal squad has it in abundance. God willing, it leads to success on the pitch. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this, man. Guys, let me know how I did in the comment section below. But I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I've got more content that I'm going to be filming in the next couple of weeks. Listen, 2026 is going to be a busy year for this channel. But if I don't see you until the new year, have a very, very happy new year. And yeah, I'll check back in with you later. Bless. Peace.